Hey guys, real quick before we get to this video, the fires we've had here in Southern California, in Malibu, and up in Northern California have been utterly devastating. And so I want to do two things right now. One is announce our new merchandise partnership with BlipShift. I'm sure you've heard of BlipShift. I bet most of you even own at least one of their shirts. I certainly do. So they are now going to be our official merchandise partner. We're going to work with them on designs as well as the actual logistics of getting you the stuff. Secondly, I'd like to announce our first shirt in partnership with BlipShift. This is going to be a charity shirt. We will be giving 100% of the profits of this shirt to the California Fire Foundation. The shirt's called California Dreamin', and it shows the state with all of our favorite roads, many of which were affected negatively by the fires. Some of them are still closed. So until December 9th, you'll be able to go to the link in the description of this video and buy this shirt. I think it's a rad design. I think it looks really cool and it says a lot. Most importantly, it's for a great cause. We're giving all the money away. Check it out. Now enjoy this one take.
Morning everybody, and welcome to A Canyon Somewhere. This is a 2018 Passat GT, a midsize sedan to compete with all the other ones from Kia and Honda, whoever else. And today we're going to be looking at where it lands in that lineup. If you've watched my review of the Accord Sport 2.0, which you should now, actually no, do it after you watch this, you'll see how I feel about that car. This is in direct competition with that, although the Accord Sport is slightly more expensive, but we're going to get to that later. Now, what does the GT trim give you? Well, it's a mid-level trim above the base, below SEL. That's what mid-level means, isn't it, Zach? It means in between. It's mostly a trim and appearance package, but it does have a lower center of gravity and retuned shocks and springs, which work, which we'll also get to when we start driving the car. As far as trim goes, outside on the front, they added a little bit of red trim above the grille. Now, they refreshed this car in 2015. It was originally designed in 2012 by the same guy who did the R8, actually. And I think the refresh looks good. The LEDs on top, it's got a little bit of black trim that make the headlights look a little narrower, which is good. And then red trim is good on anything because it makes you think about sex and fighting, and red means fast, right? So good on you. This is like the dad that does jujitsu, but then has the key fob that says jujitsu on it. You know, you're hinting to the world that you're into something. You know, you might have handcuffs by the bed, maybe. Not to be talked about at the PTA meeting, but maybe. The inside is done pretty nicely. I think they did a good job of refreshing this interior, which I've seen since 2012. You got this fake carbon, which is everywhere, but this looks to be a high quality impression of it. And then you've got aluminum trim. Aluminum splashes, I'm a fan of them. They break up the wall of black that is many car interiors today. One, it helps it easier to find controls. Two, it just looks nice. We like shiny things. That's why we like Christmas ornaments, right? So they extend that all the way across. You've got some piano black plastic, which I know some people hate. I don't like when it's overused. I think it's done well here, and it also looks to be higher quality than the stuff you get in some GM products. Now, the GT is a smartly appointed car. You get a lot of features that your average consumer wants or really needs, and you can always add options later, but the only thing that this car does not come with that I would want is radar cruise control. The Honda Accord gives you that. The Honda Accord Sport for $31,000 gives you radar cruise. Otherwise, they're pretty evenly matched. You've got a sunroof, plenty of headroom, as you can see. I've got heated seats, dual zone climate control, a USB up here, one back here, 2 cigarette lighters, an auxiliary port. Apple CarPlay works great. They don't charge you a subscription fee for it like BMW does. HIDs, of course. 6-speed DSG, shifts really quick. You got a 280 horsepower V6 engine up front. Mechanical gauges look clear, do a good job. Definitely remind me of an Audi. The only problem is the screen in the center is small. The font is kind of old. It reminds me of the late 90s, early 2000s Audis I swear it's the same font and the same screen, just a different color. Those had a red font, this is white. But, you know, Volkswagen has to save money somewhere, and this is $29,000 for a V6 midsize sedan with leatherette, heated seats, and a lot of other things. So they're gonna save money somewhere. So if you're shopping for a midsize sedan, it means you're gonna put people in the back seat. It could be coworkers, clients, family, or if you work for a ride-sharing service, customers. And as you can see, there's plenty of room back here. I have the front seat set in my position, and I'm 5'10", about 6 feet with hair. I've got plenty of room. I can move my legs back and forth. I could cross it if I want to on a long drive. Pretty comfortable, plenty of space, like most cars in its class. I've got one cup holder on the left side, a pretty comfortable armrest that's padded. It's got like a leatherette to it, which is nice, and this is actually a softer touch as well. It's got one USB port, which they don't charge you extra for, which is a good thing. And then you also got more cup holders and armrest here. And this is kind of clever. The center cup holder looks like it's meant for a Red Bull. This one's a little bit bigger, maybe a coffee cup or a soda can. And then this one could hold a larger thing, like one of those crazy venti gallon, Starbucks Frappuccino milkshakes that some people like to get. Overall, pretty comfy place to be. I wish the bottom cushion was a little bit longer for adult legs, but since this is probably aimed more at the family that's going to be carrying children or young adults, they'll probably fit it fine, especially on a long drive. Now, if you're a teenager and your parents borrow this car, rest assured you have plenty of room back here for activities like miniature table tennis or chess or maybe some kind of book club, something like that. All right, now I know that's a little bit more stationary information than you're used to on a one take, but I feel like for people that are shopping for these cars or interested in these cars, the features it comes with are more important than how it handles at the limit, or just as important, we should say. But how it drives is important to us because we are drivers, you guys are drivers, and even if you have to succumb to the domestic life that is commuting with, coworkers or family, you still like cars, right? You still want your car to either be fun or turn you on in some way. And so we're gonna figure out how this drives and see if this is worthy of the GT name. So when I first got this car, I spent 4 hours in slow traffic, and all I was focusing on was how the radio controls feel, how the air conditioning, temperature controls feel, and I was like, oh, this thing kind of feels cheap. But as soon as I drove up here and started going around some corners, I had to admit that I was wrong about this car. My initial reaction was, this is just a Passat with some red trim on the front to make you think it's fast, but otherwise it's a bunch of old parts just kind of freshened up with some carbon inside. But the suspension tuning and the lower center of gravity absolutely makes a difference in how it drives, especially compared to that Accord Sport. That car carried speed well. It had a good amount of grip, but it always felt too light on its feet. It's 200 pounds lighter, but it's not that it actually was lighter. It's that it never felt as stuck to the road. It felt almost as if the tires were overinflated. They weren't, but that's the sensation it was. It was just like a little bit, riding along the top of the asphalt, whereas this feels like it's kind of sitting in it. Now, I think some of that is due to how quiet it is in here. I think some of it is due to the suspension dampening and also the tires, which, forgive me, I don't know off the top of my head. I'll put a lower third in now with what they are. So it could be the tire choice versus the Accord. But this thing, it handles S's really well. It handles decreasing radius corners well. I have been really impressed with how it's driven. As soon as I started going up this canyon, I felt comfortable. And that, as you guys should know, speaks to how a car's chassis and suspension are sorted out. It's got 280 horsepower, 260 foot-pounds of torque. Torque comes on at 2,500 RPM, which is low unless you're comparing it to a turbo motor, which kicks in at like 1,500. But I haven't had a problem with it. I have not been left wanting for torque or response. Power goes through a 6-speed dual clutch DSG. Volkswagen's been using that for a long time. It shifts quick up and down. It's predictable. It had a little bit of trouble around town. It may be because it's tired. I don't know. This thing has 6,000 journalist miles on it. And if you listen to our podcast, which you should, it's great. We got guests from auto industry, journalists, race car drivers, fabricators, everything. But if you listen to the show with Jason Camisa, who used to be at Motor Trend, I'll let this guy get a little bit ahead. The way they test cars to get those perfect 0 to 60 times and quarter mile times is brutal. There's clutch drops, there's neutral drops at times, sidestepping brake pedals when when the car doesn't have launch control. It's a pretty vicious industry to get those numbers that we as consumers would never get. So it's possible that the transmission got beat up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. All right, that person's a little ahead. Let's see. Flat in second, third. It's plenty fast. 0 to 60 in this, I think, is 6 seconds. A couple of the cars in the segment are a half second faster, but that stuff doesn't really matter. As I just said, the only people that are getting these cars to those times are professional automobile testers whose focus is just to go out and get those times. Instrumented testing. The rest of us, you, me, the cars are all going to feel about the same quickness. I am really impressed with these seats. I have sat in cars with more aggressive looking bolsters that did not hold me in as well as these seats do. I don't know if it's the angle of the bolster, maybe it has partly to do with the fabric the seat is made out of that's holding me in place, but I'm not sliding around and I'm carrying some pretty decent speed for this road. You can downshift mid-corner with the DSG and it doesn't upset the car at all. Front visibility is really good. This car feels smaller than the Honda Accord. I know they're about the same size within an inch or two, but I think the front visibility is superior and it makes the car feel smaller. Steering feel. This car has none of it. I don't know where that option box is. I wish there was one. This is an electric assisted variable rack like most things today, but I am really just driving by, so cliche, but the seat of my pants. What the chassis is doing is being transmitted through the seat really well, and impressively well. But what the front tires are doing is not being transmitted through the steering wheel at all. Some people have asked what steering feel means, and so really quickly, basically, you should be able to feel the force that's being pushed on the front tires through the steering wheel. So as you go quicker, there's more lateral force being pushed through the front tires, and you should be able to feel that resistance through the steering wheel. And as you go over small bumps, or if you get a little bit of understeer, that should all come through the steering wheel. Here, none of it. The wheel may as well be connected to an electronic switch, and then that could be sent through a wire to another electronic switch that activates the steering rack itself. Steering's really light. It's good around town. It's good for commuting. I can't remember, honestly, how the Hondas felt, so I don't know if this is better or worse. I think most cars in this class, and actually most cars today, use similar electro-assisted systems, and steering feel is a really hard thing to replicate. For example, the M340i, which is like a sporty BMW, has pretty bad steering feel. The M2 is much better. It seems like when they're going to take the time to spend the money on adding steering feel to a car, they're going to only give it to the sportiest models in a lineup. So M2, M3, M4. M340 doesn't get it. They get different systems. Porsches, those get it because they're Porsches and they're expensive. There's a lot of traffic, but I think I've given you guys enough information anyway. As I said, when I got this car, I was a little underwhelmed. The design is 6 years old. This has a little refresh in 2015, which I think does look better with the black trim above the lights and then the red above that, because, you know, red means passion and it works on me because I'm an idiot, which I am. So at first I went, okay, this is just like a little bit of a dress-up kit, but having driven it, it's quiet, it's comfortable, visibility's good, the handling is surprisingly good, and it comes with all the features I'd want with the exception of radar cruise control. So I think what you choose to buy if you're shopping in this segment really comes down to what you feel is most important and what your commute is like. If your commute, like these people, requires you to drive on a canyon road, you're probably going to want to buy this instead of the Optima or the Accord. It's just more fun to drive. That's, you know, period. But if your commute is only on the highway and in the city, I think I would probably get the Accord. I think the interior looks more modern and more expensive. They've taken a few notes from Mercedes if you compare them. I like the tablet screen. I don't mind it at all. I like that it's bigger in that car. It's a touch screen as well as it also has hard buttons, whereas this feels kind of old. And this will only feel older, of course, because a lot of it is. And the Accord gets better miles per gallon. You know, it's $31,000 for the 2-liter turbo, and it gets 30-ish, 31 or 33 miles per gallon. If you want to save money, you could get the 1.5T, but then you get it with a CVT. So you get a weaker engine and a worse transmission. So in that case, I would get this car. You just got to figure out what's important to you and go in with those things in mind. So I hope you guys found this review informative. Please check out our podcast. We put it up twice a week. We've got pros in the industry, fabricators, drivers, race car drivers, journalists, comedians sometimes. It's a really good time. And check out our new merch store on Blip Shift. We're working with them on some new designs. If you missed a design, you can sign up on their email list for that shirt, and if we bring it back, you'll get notified. And if enough people respond about a certain shirt, they might bring it back. So check out all that new stuff. Watch for new one takes every week. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.